What's up guys, and welcome to one of my newer channels on Jdog Media, if that's still what it's called. I'm still deciding on the name, to be honest, but I'm starting on a new series which I hope you guys can get into, and it's basically my way of putting down some of my life experiences on video, because realistically, you know, I write some stuff. I'm not like a writer that's going to write about my experiences and put it in a book. I do love to make videos though, so I suppose this is my way of getting into it, show some of my life experiences, who I am now if you've never seen me before, and I suppose how I got here, which I'm going to start sort of the other way around. So rather than starting at the start, let's start at the end, which is where I'm at now, which is I'm like a videographer, do website design, lots of other digital stuff, including marketing, and other fun stuff. But, you know, like, sort of the point of this video is that it's sort of, you know, it's getting towards good times now, which does make you remind me of, you know, not so good times, and plenty of fun and interesting experiences that I've been through. So I thought I'd put that down on video, and yeah, see how you guys like it. Obviously, you know, if you do know me, you know that I do Minecraft as well. I've got a Minecraft channel that's sort of gaming tutorials and stuff like that. I work for SeekaHost, primarily doing videos, again, website design, other marketing things, and lots of fun stuff there. So really, you know, it wasn't always as easy as, like, you know, sitting down and doing videos. Not that that is easy that I'm saying, but, you know, it's a whole different world from doing like a 9 to 5 and in a different style job, which we'll get into in the videos. So in this one, we're going to be going sort of, I suppose, right back to the start now that I've explained where I am now, who I am now, I suppose. If you do want to check out any of my other channels, I'll leave them down in the description. So yeah, we're going to go right back to the start. For me, the start was actually in Greece. You'd never really tell unless you knew what my second name was, which I'm sure some people do, but I'm not English, or I suppose I'm half English. I was actually born in Greece, half Greek, half English. And yeah, I spent probably the first 10 years of my life there, so that's where I grew up. A whole different world to the UK, in certain ways, I suppose, because it's just, you know, it's not the same. Greece is a whole different place. I love the place, and yeah, but I'm in the UK now, moved here when I was 10 years old. Getting right back to the start, in Greece, I was always, where I was grown up with an English mom, a Greek dad, I was always like half English, half Greek anyway. So I always had this weird imbalance of, like, in Greece, I was always like the English kid, you know, and in England, I was always like the Greek kid growing up. Which I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but yeah, it was certainly always frustrating because you always felt like you didn't quite fit into places, like you're always slightly the odd one out. But, you know, school is school, you learn. They had lots of different classes there. Greek school is a bit different, it's hard. I mean, I clearly remember days where I had to bring back homework and either my parents were struggling and they couldn't even understand what the actual question was, let alone get the answer. So it wasn't quite easy. I remember having to spend, you know, days memorising whole pages because you're going to get asked something, you know, pre 9 years old or 10 years old. I did remember thinking this is a bit crazy. But, you know, Greece is Greece, you learn, they like to teach you hard, and it's a very nice place to grow up. You know, summers and pretty much every other time of Greece is nice, you know, unless it is actually cold and raining, which is no good. But otherwise, you've got the summer places. We used to go to this nice little caravan site in summers, used to be my favourite thing. Growing up in Greece, really, because it would go with the grandparents, it'd be by the sea, I'd be spearfishing, you know, that's how I grew up, sort of fishing and around the sea, which I loved. So seafood's never been a problem for me. It's always been actually one of my favourites, and many other meats, which was great because it taught me a bit about foods growing up, which helped in my later career. Probably won't get into that in this video. Of chefing, but yeah, it was great food. That's what I remember, great food all the time. I'd eat with my parents, and my grandparents lived upstairs. I'd run upstairs and eat like a second meal. Probably why I am the size I am now. I'm not overly huge, but I was never a small child. And yeah, that's how I spent most of my days. Won't go too far into it, I don't want to bore you with all the details, plus I was very young then, I can't remember a huge amount of details myself. But at one point, as I was sort of reaching 9 years old, my parents had decided that, you know, that things were going on in Greece. We were in Athens. I think it was getting a little dangerous at the point. There were certain things going on, which, you know, we won't go into, but just in general in Athens, and it was going pretty bad. We had family in England that we always used to visit during the summer, and you know, my grandparents and uncles and aunties, and I suppose at one point they made the decision to go over to England. When they first told me, I remember being excited because I just saw it as like a long holiday to see my English grandparents. Very exciting. But obviously towards it actually happening, I realised I'm going to be leaving my grandparents, which, you know, was sort of heartbreaking at that age. You know, your grandparents are a huge part of your life. So, you know, I sort of come here. I wasn't the happiest coming here in the end of it, but, you know, move's a move. You go with your parents. What else are you going to do? And yeah, I was in England. It was actually quite nice. My grandparents have, you know, they had a nice house that we all moved into, so it's like one big family thing. You know, now that I'm grown up, thinking back to it, it was probably so stressful for my parents, but, you know, as a kid, you're just blissfully unaware, and it's fun. You know, big back garden, playing around, and yeah, good times. And that's how I spent a lot of like the starting of my childhood. I suppose I come in and I sort of skipped a year in England, so it was like year 4 to year 5 straight away. Then I think I had one more year before you go to like a slightly more senior school. So interesting stuff. A good start, stressful though. You know, I'd had some health problems from Greece. They'd got better as I got to England, you know, as a kid with asthma and stuff like that. I don't know whether it was the dust. I always put it down to the dust, you know. Greece in Athens is a dusty place. Like, everywhere you go, there's dust, it's heat, you know. And I used to have terrible asthma, like hospitalising asthma. And that sort of cleared up in the UK, which was really nice. You know, I suppose breath of fresh air, like literally. And yeah, it was a nice start here in the UK. Unfortunately, you know, like with many people and going to school, a nice start can turn a bit funny, especially when you end up getting like bullies. Like I previously mentioned, you know, when I was in Greece, I'd be the half English, half Greek kid. When I was in England, I was like the half Greek kid. I had like a bit of an accent. I looked mostly English. I always had like a blondish hair, blondie brownie hair. But, you know, I had an accent, which unfortunately people pick on. It's good. It's going to happen. It's, you know, what can you do? Kids are mean. And it doesn't really matter what your size is at that point, because I was still one of the larger children. I was very shy, you know, like I was always in a place where I felt like I was moving around a little bit, whether it be school to school, country to country. And yeah, I suppose that really, it puts your confidence down to a point where you're like, well, I don't really want to argue back with this person that's like, you know, properly English, I suppose, in my head. He's lived here all of his life. I'm not, you know. So I used to take it for a while. It was pretty crap, you know. I'm sure many people have been through the same experience, and it always used to be, oh, the Greek kid this, the Greek kid that, which realistically, you know, isn't really so much of an insult, but, you know, it's the way people go about it. But yeah, went through that for a little while, so I suppose that was not the best part. But then you also start to make friends at the same time. Obviously, being brand new, actually, funnily enough, found there was a brand new Spanish student, one of the first friends, Nicholas. You know, we latched onto each other because we're both very similar in terms of we've just moved here. We weren't very used to the culture and the country and the people. In fact, I think how we met is he was trying to, they would always let us out at lunchtime in junior school. We couldn't go back in unless we actually asked. There was a big queue, everybody was at the door, and the teachers were like, what do you need to go in for? And he was trying to explain something about going to the bathroom. You know, in Spain, it's not so much like how we talk in England. So, you know, you're saying the bathroom, I think he was saying the bath, you know, the bath, or something like that. It was very complex. The teacher didn't get him. Poor kid wanted to go to the toilet. I quickly explained. We built up a friendship. Also got a couple of other friends as well, which actually, you know, I knew for many years after that, and that really helped. Obviously, the bully sort of like persisted. He wasn't like a terrible bully. I think he was just a bit of an arse to like everybody in general. And so, you know, it started to get better, and I started to get a bit more acclimatized, which was nice. You know, although I was still like the Greek kid, my accent started to fade. Teachers used to do terrible stuff, like, you know, well, not terrible, I suppose, you know, when you're looking at kids, it's fine, but when you get like a Greek kid that's just moved in, don't ask him to like talk Greek in front of the whole I think it was like 2 classrooms had come in to watch me read a book in Greek. It wasn't fun, but anyway, you know. I mean, the guy himself actually ended up getting into at the end of it, because, you know, after getting a bit of friendships, confidence, and sort of realising I was probably one of the biggest kids in the school. I think it was like me and another 2 kids. You know, I realised I didn't really have to take it. You know, I finally had that talk where your dad comes in and he's like, you know, you don't actually have to just be nice. I think, or maybe my mom, somebody, you know, you can sort of retaliate, I suppose. So I won't go into it. We were kids, I retaliated. It helped a lot. And it's not something I always suggest, but sometimes you just got to tell somebody when to stop, right? It's one of them things. And sometimes it's not so much your strength, it's more your confidence, because you could be the strongest person in the world, but if you're not confident and if you're really shy, you're not going to go to that situation. In fact, you're going to try and do anything to get away from that situation, right? So That was junior school, obviously by then, and luckily I'd made some friends going into senior school, so we all went together, and as daunting as it was, it's not quite as daunting when you got like another 10 pals or 5 pals or whatever it was, in the young days when you actually have friends that you can maintain before you get older and have kids, and it all goes a bit, you never see anyone. Thing is though, we weren't like the largest in confidence group. I suppose we're all shy in our own way, or we all had our own like issues in some way about ourselves, so although we fitted in, it was still quite hard. You get loud kids which just overpower you in terms of like, if you want to know something in class or you actually want to speak up or something, they just overpower you. They're loud, and and it puts you off. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't like I suddenly become really super confident in school. It actually took me many years after that to get like more confident in myself. So I suppose I spent most of my school time not really trying to be, like seen. You try to be out of the way. You don't then get picked on by people or teachers, because teachers can actually be quite bad without realizing. Teachers do a great job, but sometimes, they get caught up in the fuss of like what's going on socially in the school, like whether somebody's known for something, and then like, everybody laughs. I'm not talking personally, it's just something I noticed in school is, like they'll get involved in the stories, so they know some kid's done something and some kids are laughing about it. And, just the fact if, like, they would then snigger with the kids just makes it very, like, one-sided. It can make people feel very, like, alone in there, which you did see in schools. And I didn't go to a particularly bad school. It wasn't a private school, but in our area, it was, one of the better schools. But, you see it everywhere, so it doesn't really matter sometimes, I suppose, the school. It's going to happen everywhere. And, yeah, I mean, it was all going pretty well in school, to be fair. I was getting pretty high grades. I'd always been, like, told I'd get high grades from the junior school as well. Even with English, which I still struggle now, with some English stuff. But essentially what happened is at some point in the middle of senior school, so I suppose between you start year 7 or 8, finish year 11, somewhere between that anyway, a couple of years into it, parents broke up, which again, I'm sure it's something that many people have gone through at some point in their life, whether it's like early or later. But I do remember it having quite an effect on me at that point. So obviously I was still quite young, and I was a bit like, when I was just about to become a teenager or just becoming a teenager, when your dad moves out, you sort of feel like you become a bit lawless, because it's like, at first you're like, oh, I'm the man of the house, and then you end up arguing. Everyone thing is, personal to them, but, it sort of took a bit of a downhill turn for me at that point, and I could see myself, well, I suppose years later I could see myself, but, how it sort of went down. It was stressful, and you go through certain things. Now, I'm not going to go through my personal things. That's personal to me. But, everybody's got their personal things they went through like that. So, it's a hard one to get out of. But I suppose with age, growing up, realising it's the best thing for it, I suppose that helped. And plus, there's no point people being together that are not good for each other. But anyway, you realise all of that growing up anyway. So, it seems harder when you're a kid. Now, me and my friends did get up to some fun situations. Now, because it's pre-18, I'm not going to go into them fun situations, but yeah, some great memories. We used to have this like little shed in the back of the garden, which my mum didn't really use, so we just converted it into like a shack, like a proper, like we had TVs in there, we had like PlayStations, we carpeted it, we brought sofas, we put shelves up. It was like, it looked like the worst shed in the world until you walked in. It still wasn't that great once you walked in, but that's where I built up most of my adult friends that I know now, through that stage. So it was good. It was good and bad. You have your life experiences, and it depends what you take of them, or how you progress in life. I'm not going to lie, some of the friends that we used to hang out and, do whatever with, staying up late all night, stuff like that, as you get a bit older, is, they're not all in great situations. Some have completely excelled, some have not excelled at all. I'm not naming names, but, everybody's a bit different in how they take situations, especially like addictive situations and stuff like that. I always was quite like young and doing stuff, so I don't know why. It wasn't so much I thought it'd be like cool doing stuff, like starting smoking or drinking and stuff like that, but it's like, when you feel a bit lawless and you don't really have somebody to like, like dad, like to come in and be like, the hell are you doing? I don't know, it sort of puts you in a thing of like, oh, yeah, I want to try it first. So I would always be trying stuff first. I regret doing it now, but then also, I suppose in a way, it's taught me to not be like that. You know, you learn from an early age rather than doing it when you're older. Anyway, that's my personal opinion on that. But yeah, we had some crazy times. A lot of the friends that I speak to then, I'll still speak to now, you know, the ones that are in town or if they're on Facebook and stuff like that. So, you know, you really do get like lifelong friends within that period of your life. Still hard in many ways. Teenagers hard. You always feel like there's like a syndrome, not a syndrome, but it's something that people call, God, I don't know what it's called. It's like you feel like you have somebody over your shoulder, right? And I had this terribly, like, you feel like you're being watched, so you're always trying to, you know, and I don't know what that is. I was watching this documentary. They explained it a bit more and made perfect sense to me. And I thought, wow, that's what it was. But as a teenager, you always feel like you're always being judged by this person that's not actually there, you know. So lots of things in teenagehood. Won't go too much into that. The videos actually ran quite long at the moment, a bit longer than I wanted it to. And the actual point of this is, obviously, it does build up to not just childhood. I've been through quite a few different fun and different jobs, which we're going to get into, which have a lot of funny stories too. But I wanted to get the start out, so this is the start. If anybody ever wants to watch back to this, you know, if they're watching one of my later videos, you know, I suppose that's the start. Also points where it did start to get quite hard then, because obviously living with your mom and it was me and my sister, it was, you know, it was quite hard. She didn't drive at first. It was like, you know, I remember I used to cycle back and forth with like bags and bags of shopping all the time. You know, bills were hard. We used to get like debt collectors to the door. I remember that quite clearly. But, you know, like, she done, like, a really good job and just, like, kept pushing through and pushing through. She actually, personally, herself ended up going to uni, getting a nice, you know, high-paid job in the end at that point. And, yeah, she was starting to do really well for herself. So, you know, that's good. But there was definitely, like, hard times before that. It wasn't, like, poverty times in any way. And I think she just done a great job of using what she had to make it like a way better experience. You know, like me and my friends would be at my house eating. I don't know how she afforded it, but like me, 3 of my friends at least most nights would be like there, and she would cook like delicious food and everybody would always come back. So, you know, it was a nice hub actually, you know, growing up. I was sort of, you know, it was like a nice hub for people to come and meet, and it was just like chilled. It was nothing too crazy. But yeah, it was fun. But either way, guys, thank you for watching. If you're still watching, well done for making it through my crazy long monologue. And yeah, let me know down in the comment section whether you want some more videos like this. Obviously, the next section, we sort of go from like childhood to, I suppose, you know, after 18. So, you know, we got a lot more stories and getting in stuff. It's still hard at that point, guys. But, you know, it's sort of the whole story's building up to something. So, yeah, follow along. Hit that like button, subscribe. It's a new channel. We got like no subscribers basically, so do subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.